Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming up here and having us. My name is Julian Bradley. I'm the endorsed candidate for Wisconsin Secretary of State. I'd like to thank my friends here in Douglas County for their support at our state convention in Milwaukee as I carried Douglas County unanimously. So I do appreciate that support and that vote of confidence. We're here today to celebrate the 17th field office that the Wisconsin Republican Party has opened here in 2014. We all understand that we have a monumental task ahead of us. When I decided to get into the race for Secretary of State, I had a lot of people tell me, "Are you sure you want to get into that race? I mean, that's going to be a tough haul." And after I took some time to think about it, and I started really looking at what I have to do compared to what Doug LaFollette and the Democrats have to do, I'd rather be in my shoes. You see, all I have to do is defeat a 36-year incumbent with a multimillionaire at the top of the ticket, willing to submit and bring in an unlimited amount of resources. Well, okay, that seems a little difficult. But you see, what they have to do, what the Democrats have to do, what Doug LaFollette and Mary Burke and the rest of their ticket have to do, to defeat us, they have to defeat the truth in its purest form. To defeat us, they have to defeat a truth that's not going to change no matter how much money you throw at it. A truth that's not going to change no matter how many people they bring in from out of state to convince you of otherwise. And that truth is that Governor Walker and our Republican reforms are working for the state of Wisconsin. That truth is that we're going to stand up and we're going to fight and we're going to make sure that we keep Wisconsin red so we can keep Wisconsin moving forward. Now, I don't usually admit to something like this, but I was on Twitter last night, and the Wisconsin Dems are having their convention right now. And Mary Burke said something that I agreed with. She said, what we need is a governor that not only knows how to create jobs, but knows how to create opportunity. Well, the man I'm about to introduce to you is the leader of our great Opportunity Party. He's the leader of the state of Wisconsin, which has created over 100,000 new jobs since we elected him the first time and the second time. Add them together. Ladies and gentlemen, he is our governor, Scott Walker. All right.
Thanks. It's good to be back in Superior and Douglas County, and I think all the way back, Craig, when you had me up here one of the first times a long time ago. It's great to see not only a lot of friendly faces, but a lot of new faces here as well. We started out early this morning. Again, I was down in your neck of the woods. I started out early at the Barron County Dairy Breakfast where it was rainy and windy. And Sean Duffy was actually with me down there. And then I was over in Polk County in Millstown. Great to be up here to help open up this office, as Julian said. And then we're going to be in Hayward and yet Wauwatosa tonight. So it's a crazy day, but we're all over the state of Wisconsin. We're fighting for every vote in every part of the state, and certainly here in the Northwest. We've been here often, and we'll continue to be between now and November 4th, both as your governor in the past and now both as governor as a candidate. And it's really great to be here and to see all of you. I want to start out, though, by asking a real simple question. It's a question that people should ask anytime any incumbent is up for office the first time. And as you referenced, it may not feel like the first time, but really we are up for re-election the first time, right? The simple question is, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And the question in any part of the state, whether it's in Superior, whether it's in Hayward or Ashland or Bayfield or Cornucopia, even further north than here, the question all across this great state is yes, Wisconsin is better off than it was 4 years ago. But we're not yet as great as we can be, and that's why I want to talk about both our record of what we've accomplished to make this state better, and even more what we want to do over the next 4 years. Think about it, 4 years ago at the beginning of 2010, the unemployment rate in this state was 9.2%. Today it's 5.8%. By the end of the summer, it's down to 5.5%, we project. That's a dramatic turnaround. As Julian mentioned, we've gone from losing 130,000 jobs, more than 130,000 jobs under Jim Dole's last term, to gaining over 100,000 jobs. From losing 27,000 businesses to gaining nearly 20,000 businesses. Probably the most damning thing was 4 years ago when the statewide Chamber of Commerce did a survey of employers. You know how many thought we were heading the right direction? 10%. That was it, 10%. Today, in 2014, that same survey shows that 95% believe Wisconsin's heading the right direction. fiscal side as well, we took a $3.6 billion budget deficit and turned it into a surplus. Surplus of almost $1 billion. By making long-term decisions that think more about the next generation than just the next election, we were able to put in place changes that allowed us to not only create that surplus, but put it back in your hands, the people who earned it, the hardworking taxpayers. In fact, unlike our neighbors just across the way in Duluth in the state of Minnesota, we've cut taxes $2 billion over the past 3 years. In fact, this year's property taxes will not only be lower than they were last year, December of 2014's property tax bills will be lower than they were 4 years ago, and because we put that money into relieving the tax burden, it not only be lower statewide, in this technical school district, the Wisconsin Indian Head Technical College District, you have effectively wiped out essentially all of your property tax for the technical college. That's a dramatic drop in property taxes right here in northwestern Wisconsin. How about that? And so I want to do that going forward. It's not enough just to be lower than it was 4 years ago, which is remarkable. I want it to be lower 4 years from now. If you give me 4 more years as your governor, in 2018, I want property taxes to be lower in 18 than they were in 14, which means they'll be lower than they were in 2010. If you give us a chance, we'll show that not only is the economy better than it was 4 years ago, if you give me 4 more years, we'll show that 4 years from now, the economy will be even better. Because as a team with the Republicans in the Assembly and the Senate and all of us working together, we'll show what we can do to continue to turn the state in the right direction, to move this state forward. Now, in contrast, and Julian mentioned this, that the other party's having a convention down in Wisconsin Dells this weekend. And they'll like to focus on certain numbers. I'll tell you the simple fact of the matter is, if you've got folks that you know here in Superior, elsewhere throughout northwestern Wisconsin, who are on the fence, who are on the bubble, I remember 2 things to pass on to them. First off, ask that simple question: are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? I think if they look at the property tax bill, if they look at their schools, if they look at their communities, if they look at jobs within their communities, the answer is overwhelmingly yes as a whole in the state. And then secondly, remember this other statistic. While unemployment has continued to go down while I've been governor, in fact, it's lower than it's been at any point in more than 5 years in the state. The only time in the last 25 years that Wisconsin's unemployment rate has been worse than the national unemployment rate was when Mary Burke worked for Jim Dole as the Secretary of Commerce. If anybody wonders what we would get if we went forward with a different governor, if we took a step, I wouldn't say forward, if we stepped out and put in place a new governor, just look at that record. Unemployment has dropped since I've been governor, well below the national average. Mary Burke's time as Secretary of Commerce under Jim Doyle was the only time in the last 25 years that unemployment was actually worse in Wisconsin than it was across the country. I think it's pretty clear. What they're talking about down in Wisconsin Dells would take us backwards. We don't want to go backwards. We want to go forward, and with your help, that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, the last thing I just want to tell you, and I think you know this because I see so many faces here, people who've helped us out time and time and time again, not only in 2010, but a little unexpectedly again in 2012, right? The reality is, you know, we've got a group of volunteers and many more like you across the state who are really well prepared. And the grassroots made all the difference in the 2012 election. But we're going to need you to help out again. Because you see that the polls are close, and in large part it's because, unlike any other governor in the country, I've actually had more than 3 years of largely unsustained, unbroken up time on attack, many times on TV and ads. Unlike most governors, you start to see it right at the end of their term. We've been under just one attack after another, largely from groups outside of this state. And that has an impact in a state that hasn't gone Republican for president in 30 years. Since 1984, running around and running in last care of the state. And so we've got a challenge in front of us. We do well here. People like Sean Duffy are doing well. We've got a real chance in the Senate race and the Assembly race and others across the state. But to offset those votes that sometimes go the other way in Milwaukee and Madison, we need help elsewhere across the state of Wisconsin. The other big reason why the grassroots is going to make such a difference is nationally, one of the biggest groups that's involved in this state just moved a few months ago $300 million out of money they normally spend on federal congressional races into 5 states: Florida, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and who else? Wisconsin. And why are they doing that? Because for them, they didn't like what we did a couple years ago. Because you see, in the past, those big government special interests, they liked having control. They liked having control in the state and at the local level. We took that control away from the big government special interest, and we put it firmly in the hands of the taxpayers. And they don't want that to happen, not only here, but for them, they're more worried about than just about the voters here in Wisconsin. What they're worried about is if they don't stop people like me and people like all of you here from showing that we can get elected again, what will ultimately happen is other governors and other leaders in other states will step up and have the courage to do what we did here in Wisconsin, and they can't afford to have that happen. So what you're doing between now and November 4th is not only important for Wisconsin, it's important for the country, because we want our country back. We got to take it back one state at a time. We got to encourage leaders to step up and to fulfill the promises they made on the campaign trail, to do what they said they were going to do, and to think more about the next generation than just about the next election. You're going to help us do that. Thank you so much for being out here today, but thank you even more so than being here now for all the calls, for all the signs, for all the door-to-doors that you're going to do for us between now and November 4th and the rest of our great team. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
I just have one more while I have you here. Yesterday, I know this is, this is now, but yesterday the ban was overturned. Can I just have your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we think it's pretty clear. I think the Attorney General is correct to go forward and defend the state's constitution. The voters very clearly took a stand on that issue in 2006. And I think as Attorney General on this or any other issue, it's his responsibility or any other Attorney General's responsibility to defend the Constitution, particularly when the voters take action.